For the past 14 years, he's helped transform over 21,000 clients. He was the first one to popularize 30-minute fat loss workouts in El Paso and Las Cruces. He's changed the fitness industry in the US-Mexico border. He's the trainer's trainer and has helped hundreds of fitness enthusiasts become trainers. Over the last 7 years, he's helped thousands of kids in need through his charitable contributions. He's the CEO of Raw Fitness, voted #1 gym by the City magazine. He is the king of weight loss, a master in success mindset, transformation genius. He's the man on a mission to change 1 million lives by 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise and put your hands together for Mr. Octavio Urias.
So, welcome to the Fat Loss Nutrition class. So here's what we're gonna do. The very first thing to understand is everybody, whoa, too much excitement here. Everybody's looking for the perfect diet, right? I mean, first of all, let's make this clear. Everybody hates diets, okay? And no wonder. The first 3 words, guess what it says? Die. Nobody wants to die, right? But let's just not call it a diet. Let's just call it a nutrition plan or strategy or way of life, whatever you want to call it. But I suggest let's get rid of this word. And everybody's looking for the perfect formula. Well, the good news is, or bad news, is there is no perfect formula. Any single diet you do, like right now, these are very popular. We're gonna cover all of this here, okay? Ketogenic diet, IF, which is intermittent fasting. Some other people really love flexible dieting, or if it fits your macros. Some people just like a balanced diet. Some people like vegan. And there's millions, well, maybe not millions, but there's literally thousands of diets. All of them have some benefits, all of them have some pros, and all of them have some cons. So it depends. Like for you, it might be, let's say maybe keto is gonna be ideal, and it might not be ideal for Saul, or it might not be ideal for me. Everybody has a different life, different activity levels, different goals, different metabolisms. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into the main things, or the main key points on each of them, so that you know exactly which one's gonna be ideal for you. Now, something to keep in mind. Diet nowadays is like a religion, or like politics. And there's people that take it so serious, and they're like all hardcore ketogenic dieters, and everything else is wrong, and everybody else is stupid. And then vegan thinks that everybody else, they're just criminals because they're killing animals. Like, so everybody has a point, and I respect every point. I am not pro keto or pro fasting or pro flexible. I am pro what works for you. And I don't believe you should just do one of this for the rest of your life. I believe all of this are tools in a toolbox so that you can get results. So at some point, maybe fasting is gonna work great for you. Maybe not for the rest of your life. So you can use that as a tool in that period of time or for that goal. Maybe for some time vegan will work, and you really cleanse your body and detoxify from all the crap, right? Now, that's not to say the vegans are clean. Some vegans out there eat really, really harmful stuff as well. So again, there is no perfect diet. That's the first thing we have to cover, the disclaimer. All of them have some pros and cons, okay? Now, with that being said, the second point, we talked about this a couple days ago. So the first point is that don't treat this as your religion. They're just tools, okay? And there's no perfect diet. Number 2, 99% of diets work for fat loss, or I should say of fat loss diets work under one condition. You have to create a calorie deficit. And the reason why that works, let's say let's just make it simple. let's say, well, there's two conditions. There's 2,000 calories a day that you're consuming, just to say a number, okay? And let's say that's your maintenance level. That's your maintenance calories. That's your caloric need per day. It's for you to not gain weight, not lose weight, for you to stay the same. So most diets restrict something. So if they restrict something, automatically they're gonna put you, well, not automatically, but in most cases, they're gonna put you on a calorie deficit. So if it takes your body 2,000 calories to sustain that weight, then if you go to 1,700, you're gonna lose fat. Anything under 2,000 calories, you're gonna lose fat. Again, this is a very generic number. Just to give you an example, everybody's gonna be different. If you are over the 2,000 calories, even if you're eating clean foods only, and you're drinking protein shakes, and you're eating like fruits and vegetables, and lean steaks, and organic, grass-fed, everything, if you eat more than your body needs to maintain, you're gonna gain weight, okay? On the other hand, there's been plenty of studies done, and by the way, I don't recommend this at all, but there's been plenty of studies done where they put people on a calorie deficit, so let's just say a 500 calorie deficit per day, and they feed them Twinkies and Oreos and McFlurries and all this junk, and guess what happens? They lose weight, they lose fat. Now, is that ideal? Absolutely not. I would never recommend that you do that. That's kind of what the principles of flexible dieting is. You can just eat whatever as long as it fits your calories and your macronutrient needs. But you're not gonna tell me that if you eat an Oreo, that all carbs are made equal. If you eat an Oreo, it's different than if you eat an apple. Even if you get your carbs, let's say you get 17 grams of carbs from Oreos and from apple. Yes, you get the same calories, which is the principle here. You get the same carbs, but you're not getting any nutritional value from this, and you are from this, from the apple, right? So most diets will work for weight loss as long as you're in a calorie deficit. And we said that there's no perfect diet, but there is something really close to the perfect diet, and that is the diet that you can stick to long term. And this means when you're feeling stressed, when you're emotional, when you have a bad day at work, when you break up with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or when your kids call you a bad word, or when you get divorced or whatever, it means that you can still stick to it, that it doesn't require willpower, because we all know it. Willpower is great, but sooner or later it wears off. So the first thing that we need to understand that is close to the perfect diet and we get that calorie deficit is you have to be able to comply. To comply and sustain it. What's the point of doing it if it's not sustainable? If you're gonna do it for a week or two, and yes, you might lose 10 pounds, right? But what's the point if you're gonna gain those 10 pounds as soon as you get off of it? As soon as something bad happens, as soon as you have a long, stressful day, or as soon as you couldn't pay one bill. You know, I've been in all these situations, so I know, because I've tried all of this and many more, the best one, the closest to perfect, not perfect nutritional wise, but perfect, closest to perfect as far as you getting results, is gonna be the one you can comply and the one you can sustain. Okay, so let's go over the next. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go over the next points. And by the way, if you guys have any questions, post it in the comments. We're doing this live, so then someone can just read me the questions, and then I will be able to answer those as we go. Now that we understand calories, then something very popular to know. And we're just gonna cover this really quick because we've covered this before. So here's what I would do. Can you see this in the camera, Saul?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what I would do. Something you can comply and sustain, right? So let's just put here, sustain. It has to be able to give you the right calories. Now, Some of you guys that have been clients for a while or team members for a while, you're like, wait, what? You're talking about counting calories? You've always been against that. I've always been against that because I don't want you to do it for the rest of your life, and I don't want to make things complicated. But now that you're getting a little bit more advanced, or maybe you hit a plateau and you're not losing weight, then you're not in a calorie deficit. So what I want you to do is I want you to understand it, find where you need to be, and then you don't need to count calories for the rest of your life. You can just adjust. And by the way, the calories you need per day, your metabolism, it's a moving target. So it's never gonna be the same. It's always gonna be evolving. So you're always, now that you know this, hey, if I'm gaining weight, maybe your metabolism slowed down or you're eating more calories, and you know how to tweak it, okay? But this is the order. Being able to comply and sustain it, the calories, and then this is what's called macros, which for a long time, people have been very focused on this. We have been really focused on this, myself included. But there's something very important here, which is called micros. Macronutrients, micronutrients. Macronutrients are gonna be protein, carbs, and fats. Okay, those are the three types of nutrients that you eat. But micronutrients are really what makes your body work efficiently. These are vitamins, minerals, all the things that maybe you're not counting in your foods. Everybody, I guarantee you, if you read a label, you're seeing how much fat is in it, how many carbs, how many sugars, right? How many calories. But nobody's seeing, okay, how much vitamin D am I getting? How much calcium am I getting? How much potassium? How much sodium? And if you're getting the right calories and the right macros, yes, you're gonna lose weight, but your body's not gonna function at its peak capacity, at its peak performance. So that's why I moved this to even higher than macronutrients. Because what you want to do is you want to consume nutrient-dense food. We just gave you the example a little while ago, right? Carbs from an Oreo or from Oreos or from Twinkies are not going to be the same as from an apple or from a potato, right? Or from a vegetable. They're very different, and you can consume the exact same amount of grams. And yes, it'll fit this, but it's not telling you the whole story. If you really want to feel alive and full of energy and do this long term, then this is where you need to go. Okay? Now, after that, then we would have the macros. And everybody has heard this at some point. You need to eat high protein, right? You need a high protein intake. If you're training hard, especially if you're training at Raw or at Elite or something like we do, where you're really taxing your body and your muscles, then this is gonna be very important. Unless you're on a keto diet. You don't want to have the protein super high, you want to reduce it, which we'll go over in details a little bit later. But right now, let's forget the keto diet and let's talk in general terms. Here's what the studies have shown, and there's many of studies shown regarding this. If you control this too, the calories that you consume and the protein you consume, so I will just give you an example, okay? Let's say, and by the way, this is what I wanted to get to. Everybody's heard that you need a high protein intake, and the easier or most common or popular rule of thumb is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, right? So just to give it round numbers, real simple. If you weigh 200 pounds, then that would be 200 grams of protein per day. And you break that down over as many meals as you eat, right? But what has been found is that if you control this and this, where you move this to, how much of each you eat, as long as you stay with this and you keep this the same, gives you almost the same results. They don't make a big difference, okay? Now, for a while, I thought, like many of you, that carbs are bad, right? Because in the 90s, everything was fat-free, everything. Fat is bad, fat is the enemy, the devil, right? So, first we thought fat was bad. Then later on, now everywhere you go, fat is good, right? Keto diet, eat fats everywhere. And now the second trend was that carbs were bad. Well, none of them are bad. Each of them have a specific function and we need both of them. Okay, we've covered that before, so we're not gonna spend too much time there. But let's say you're gonna eat 2,000 calories, okay? And you're gonna hit your 200 grams of protein. Well, each gram of protein has 4 calories. Each gram of carbs has 4 calories. and each gram of fat has 9 calories. So 200 grams times 4 calories, that's gonna be 800 calories are gonna come from protein. Meaning, how many you have remaining? You have 1,200 calories remaining for this too. So whether you wanna eat high carb and low fat, or you wanna eat high fat and low carb, or you wanna have them more moderate, as long as this stays the same and this stays the same, your results are gonna be very similar. So here's where the perfect diet comes into play, okay? It's not, are carbs good or are carbs bad? What's best for you? If you're someone who has a really sweet tooth and you cannot give up your carbs and you just have to have carbs for you to be happy or whatever, right? Some people get too many emotions attached to this, which is another whole nother topic. But if you just need your carbs, then don't give up your carbs. You can have higher carbs, just reduce your fat a little bit. Or maybe you're not that much of a sweet tooth. Maybe you just like, you know, more of the salty foods. Maybe you like bacon. Maybe you like full eggs with the yolk in it. Then you can keep your fats higher and reduce the carbs. Fat loss wise, the results are gonna be very, very, very similar. So this really becomes, what do you prefer? What can you sustain and comply with the most, right? Now, there's gonna be exceptions here, like when we go over ketogenic diet or carb cycling, where you can't choose that. You're gonna have days where they're more fat, days where they're more carbs. But in general terms, if you're not doing ketogenic or if you're not doing carb cycling, just focus on keeping your high protein, keeping your calories that you need for the day, which is not this. This is just a made up number. Everybody has a different metabolism. What's the best way to know what your calories are? Nowadays, there's many trackers that you can just go online or download an app and you can track it. They're not 100% accurate. They can give you a ballpark idea, which is good. Or if you just want to do it old school, then just track for like 7 days, for a whole week. Track what you eat, write it down, journal it. And right now, if you're not losing weight and not gaining weight, if you're staying the same, that's your maintenance. If you track what you ate for a week and you gain weight, you're eating more calories than you need. If you track what you ate for a week and you lost weight, then you're already on a calorie deficit. So you have to play and find out. You can use a calorie tracker to give you a ballpark idea. That's what I would do to start, and then I would journal everything for 7 to 10 days. Know exactly how many calories I get so that I know what my target is. And once you know that, you don't have to do this for the rest of your life every day. You'll start making progress. If you ever get stuck again, then just track again for a few days. Okay? That's the best way to find out, or the most effective way to find out. Even the labels are not as accurate. There's like a 10% variance if you read a label, like a nutrition fact. But what you're trying to do is not to make things super complicated and get all the science right. If you just get close enough, you'll start making progress. Remember, don't look for perfect. Look for progress. Okay? So any questions so far? Protein is gonna be equated with calories. If you keep that, you can move this as much as you want. And of course, where you get your protein, carbs, and fats, it's a whole nother topic, because we want to get them from sources that are nutrient dense, that have a lot of micronutrients, that have vitamins, antioxidants, minerals, electrolytes. Okay? But that's pretty much the order there. Now, I want to go over beyond what your preference is of carbs and fats. What type of training you're doing determines if fats are going to be more effective for you as a source of energy, or if carbs are going to be better for you as a source of energy. So these two pretty much are energy sources. Okay? And then protein is building tissue. This is what things are made of. Your muscles, your skin, things that are tissue that needs to be made of in your body are going to need protein. So if you're working out hard, you're breaking that muscle tissue, this is what's going to recover the muscle, not this too. This is sources of energy. Now, carbs, if you can imagine, what does this look like, Saul?
Mount Everest. Oh, a fire.
A fire, right? So this is the big flame, powerful, crazy, right? This is how carbs work, okay? But what happens to that fire I don't know, maybe in half hour or in an hour, what do you think is gonna happen to that fire if we don't do anything to it? It's probably gonna die, right? It's probably gonna start dying. And what are you gonna have here? This is more like charcoal. I'm sorry I didn't warn you, I'm an artist. I can really draw, so help me, bear with me, use your imagination. So this is the big flame. This is how carbs work, high intensity. If you're gonna train with super high intensity and shorter duration, this is gonna be a better source of fuel. If you're gonna train with longer duration, less intensity, or maybe it's not even training, maybe you just have an active lifestyle but doesn't require a lot of high intensity and you wanna have energy throughout the day and not have that crash, then fat would be better, okay? Because carbs are gonna be used for high intensity, fats are gonna be used for lower intensity. Like right now that I'm talking to you and I'm moving my hands and all of this, chances are my body is not going for carbs. Chances are I'm using more of this. Later on when I finish this and I go work out and I go balls to the wall, chances are my body is gonna use more of this, okay? Now, the body is completely adaptive. So if you don't give it carbs, oh, don't worry, even if you do high intensity, it's gonna use the fats and vice versa. But is it optimal? It's not optimal. What you wanna do is you wanna do things that your body prefers. So when you have carbs plus water, this becomes something called glycogen in your body, okay? Carbs and water, glucose and water becomes glycogen. This is your muscle's favorite fuel. So if you're gonna lift weights and you're gonna do like a CrossFit competition or something really intense, this is gonna be your body's preferred source of energy, and chances are you're gonna do better with this. Now, I know before you start attacking me, you keto fans, there are super athletes and everybody who's been, you know, very successful without carbs as a source of energy, and instead they go keto and use ketones, right? Which at the end of the day, you're gonna be burning fat as your main source of energy, fat, ketones. Yes, your body, we just said, is adaptive. It'll adapt to whatever. Like, we are not alive by accident. Go back to thousands and thousands of years. How do you think we survived? We didn't get to choose what we wanted. We had to eat what we had available. Sometimes we would hunt. Sometimes there was nothing to hunt, so we would just have to eat from the soil, right? Stuff that grows there. So your body's fully adaptive. We're just talking about what's ideal, what's optimal. Now the benefit here is that you don't get those big spikes that you would get with the carbs, right? This is more of a steady flow. But if you know you're gonna be using your carbs and you're gonna have those spikes, then you just need to get smart and have more carb sources throughout the day so you can maintain that energy level, okay? So that's why I said, okay, there's no perfect diet, it's what are you after, okay? If you wanna use fat as energy, then keto's a good idea. If you're gonna be a high intensity sport competitor or like a CrossFit or something, or like maybe like a bikini competition or bodybuilding or something, then you're gonna have most likely to use some glycogen. So there's just differences. My job is not to sell you on any of this. My job is to show you what I've learned, what we've experienced, so that you make your own decisions based on your goals, based on your lifestyle, what's gonna work best for you. Now, I want to have an important message about bad food with you before we go on to the next section. What I want you to do is, because you're thinking, well, this is kind of confusing, what should I do? The one thing you gotta understand is this. This is the main point you need to understand today. I should have started with this. Stop insulting yourself and your body with the crap you're eating every day. If you're eating out of fast food places every day, then any of the stuff you do will be better. But the big aha moment I want you to do is like, stop insulting yourself. Stop insulting your body and your future. Like, if you have kids, like, don't you want to be around for those kids? Don't you want to, you know, see your daughter get married or your son graduate and start a family and be successful, or be whatever goals they have? Don't you want to be around, or do you want to just be around and be on the couch and be useless because you have bad health, because everything hurts, because you're bloated, you're sluggish, you're constantly tired, you have no energy? Maybe you have young kids right now and you can't even chase them around. You know how crazy their energy is, right? Oh, but you're there just in front of the TV or just scrolling on that phone. This has to do a lot with what you eat. Okay, if you eat junk, they say you are what you eat, right? Well, guess what? If you eat junk, you're gonna look and feel like junk. If you eat something that's great, that's high quality, guess how you're gonna feel. Forget how you're gonna look. Forget fat loss. Let's just think about not just adding more years to your life, but adding life to your years. Because I know what you're thinking now. Well, but life is to be enjoyed. I want to enjoy my beers and my hamburgers and my ice cream. Absolutely. I'm not saying you're never going to eat that again in your life. I eat that as well. I eat burritos, I eat ice cream, but not every day. It's not the majority of my diet. It might be 5% of my diet or 10% of my diet. And guess what? When you start trying this and you go past those cravings, you're gonna feel much better, that you're not gonna want to eat bad food. Because when you eat bad food, you're gonna feel the difference. You're gonna feel useless, bloated, out of energy, really sluggish, sleepy, heavy, like you just want to do nothing. And when you eat the great high quality food, you have high energy, you even think more positive, you even are more effective, like up here, mentally, physically. And if you can start adding this to your life, imagine how it'll improve everything else in your life. It's not gonna just improve the weight on the scale. Like, trust me, you're gonna think different, you're gonna look different, you're gonna act different, you're gonna be a different spouse, a different parent, your confidence is gonna be better. And you start to build a track record with yourself that say, hey, I went 3 days eating good food without bad food. Now you know you can do 3 days. Let's not overwhelm ourselves with 10 years. Hey, do 3 days. Now you know you can do 3 days. Next thing, shoot for 4, then shoot for 5. If you mess it up with bad food, then don't beat yourself down. Just say, hey, let me get back on track right away. Not on Monday, not on next week, not when the time is right, but right away. And let's say, let me beat my record of 3. Let's go for 3.5 or 4 days, okay? But that's the biggest invitation I have for you today. Regardless of what nutrition plan you go for, just think about this. Stop insulting your kids. Okay, maybe you have kids. Most of you do. Most of our clients have kids. Don't you want to be around for them and not having them having to take care of you and become a pain in the ass to them? Like, I know what I want to do. I know when I'm a grandpa, I'm gonna be throwing those little boys around. I'm not gonna be like all like half dead in bed because I was irresponsible or I couldn't apply myself. You're much better than you think, okay? And again, it's not about the willpower. Today is about, let's find what's gonna work best for you and be easy to sustain so that it doesn't require willpower, so that you can make it a lifestyle, okay? That's my invitation. Now, you guys wanna go over like specific diets and the main key points and how does that work, or you have any questions before we move on to that? If you do have any questions, post it in the comments here so Saul can read me the questions. And there's a little delay with Facebook, so when I say this, by the time you respond, it's gonna take a little while. So if you see something come up, Saul, then just let me know. Okay, so let's cover this top popular diets that you guys were asking about, and cover the main points and explain why would they work, why wouldn't they work, what do we recommend. wouldn't say that's very popular right now. So let's just actually do this. Okay, and by the way, I think I would say this is probably the biggest trend right now, the one that's most talked about, but this is nothing new. This has been done like for years and years and decades. This is nothing new. This is just a trend right now, but it's nothing new. So there's plenty of studies done of that. So let's start with the easiest one. Flexible dieting. So flexible dieting, what it is, oh, we have a question?
Yes.
What you got?
How much water do you recommend to drink a day?
How much water do I recommend to drink a day? Our intensity of training and the plans we do, you're gonna need at least 3 liters. Moreover to like a gallon. But water is not the number one thing, or the only thing, I would say, actually. Not the number one, but it is the number one thing. But it's not the only thing we need to consider as far as hydration, okay? We also need to consider electrolytes like sodium. And everybody and their grandma is afraid of salt, of sodium. And they think that it's bad. And we thought that it's bad. We've been taught that it's bad for years. But there's plenty of studies that show that salt is actually beneficial. A low sodium intake is actually going to harm your body more than a regular or high sodium intake. A book I would recommend for you to check out is called The Salt Fix by Dr. Nicola Antonio. He breaks everything down about salt, all the studies, all the lies we've been told. It's definitely something you need to check out. We're not going to cover that too much right here, but it also depends. Do you live in somewhere where it's very hot? Are you outside? Do you sweat a lot? How often do you train? Do you train once a day, 3 times a day? So that's going to be different. Okay, someone who trains 2 or 3 times a day in a hot environment is going to need more salt than you would. Not necessarily more water, but more salt. Okay, now something that, now that we're on that topic, in any of this, whenever you go lower calorie and lower carbs, so for example, this one, this 2 specifically, actually this 3 specifically, it is recommended you increase your salt intake, because when you reduce the glycogen, meaning you cut the carbs, remember we talked carbs plus water is glycogen, when you reduce the glycogen, your body's gonna lose a lot of fluids, a lot of water, okay? So by having a high sodium intake, you wanna have higher electrolytes, so sodium, potassium, magnesium, so that you can retain some of that and not lose important stuff your body needs in those fluids. That's why something called keto flu is coming. When someone gets on the keto diet, since they're going almost no carbs, mainly fats and protein, they lose glycogen, they lose a lot of water, they get dehydrated, and then they get sick, they get like a flu. Well, that's easy to solve if we just transition smoothly into it and we increase the water and salt intake. Another question?
Yes.
But oh, by the way, check out that book, The Salt Fix. Very, very, very great information. You know, amazing information. I was like, what? I can't believe I was sold all these ideas for so long. What's the question, Saul?
Okay. Would you recommend things like Gatorade or Powerade for the electrolytes along with water?
It depends. It depends. If you're an athletic person, if you're an athlete, maybe you compete, it could be a tool for maybe around the workouts. But for example, Gatorade, it's mainly sugar. It doesn't have enough sodium, for example. So for example, you couldn't do that on the keto diet or on carb cycling because it'll break what we're trying to do. If you're on flexible dieting, they would say yes, because you can eat or drink whatever you want as long as it fits your macros. So if you say, okay, I have 2,000 calories for the day or 3,000 calories for a day and 200 of those are going to be carbs, you just count, okay, that 12 ounces of Gatorade was 32 grams or whatever it is, and you count it, and that would work. And again, if you're in a calorie deficit, you'll lose weight. If all you care about is just losing weight short term and you don't want to, struggle too much, then this would work. But this is not going to be the best health-wise, and this is not going to be, if you want to get better and stronger and you really want to be elite, then this is not what would work. Okay, I mean, this works well if you're trying to add weight, if you're trying to bulk up. But if your main goal is fat loss, then Gatorade is probably not going to be, at least on this one it'll be okay, but not on this one's. Okay, and if you're trying to do it because of the electrolytes, there's better solutions that are going to be lower carbs. For example, well, you need the carbs though, actually. But this is something we can't generalize, because if you're in a weight loss position, you need to lose weight, I wouldn't want to spike your insulin that much with Gatorade because it has a lot of sugar. Anytime you have high sugar, your insulin will rise. Insulin here. And that's not optimal except post-workout. If you're not in a weight loss concern, if you're maybe at your ideal weight, or you're trying to gain weight, or you're at your ideal weight and you're just trying to really get stronger, improve your performance, then that could work. Because actually, if you mix the sodium and those potassiums with carbs, like for example Gatorade, they're way better absorbed and way faster to absorb. What else we got, Soda? How do you spell flu?
We're good.
We're good. Okay. So we kind of covered already what this one is. This by far would be the easier to maintain. Why? Because, and I'm not a fan of this, because how can you benefit from eating Pop-Tarts? Like, what, you know, what's the benefit nutrition-wise from Pop-Tarts? But hey, it can get the job done if you're just caring about what it says on the scale. Now, will you look like a supermodel on this? I doubt it. I've never been able to get very far with this other than weight loss and fat loss, okay? Because I've told you the other day, I've done this. I've lost weight. Those of you that know me, I've been from 200 pounds to 130, everything in between, for the last 14 years. I'm 5'6", so that's a big range. So when I've bulked up, when I've competed, when I've been at my strongest, when I've been at my lightest, when I've been at 3% body fat, I've been between 130 and 200. And if you just care about lowering or increasing the number, yes, it's a calories game. You can eat whatever you want, but it's not what I recommend, okay? Now, with that being said, it's the easiest to maintain, okay? Once you lose the weight and you're really trying to get more advanced, better performance, more strength, and you know you're trying to get more muscle definition, then really what you eat starts to count, not just the calories, but where are those calories coming from? So the benefit I would say this one has is actually two. It's easier to maintain, and it's probably gonna be the cheapest. So if you failed with diets all of your life and you can't lose the weight and you just need to lose some weight to get going, to get started, to build that motivation, and then later that you have that discipline, move on to something else, then this could be an easy transition. However, the objection I have to that is it's hard to be on a diet, on a transformation when you're eating. I mean, it's hard to think of restricting yourself to the calories when you're thinking, oh, I'm eating, you know, all this junk food, all this Oreos and Twinkies every day, and I'm drinking. It just doesn't match. It's not gonna fuel your workouts, which is another part. We really underestimate what the workout does because it's so popular. Oh yeah, it's 70% diet, 30% workout. That's bullshit. That's bullshit because if you look at anybody that you would want to look like, look how they work out. If you want to look like The Rock, you think he just diets? No, he's in the gym every single day. He's been in the gym for the last 30 days. Think of any hot chick that's popular right now that looks amazing. I don't know. Tell me someone, Soda. Someone that everybody will know. Somebody famous who's like in super shape.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay, that one, or Jennifer Nicole Lee, or Paige Hathaway, or whatever her name is. Look, they're eating healthy, they're tracking their diet, but they're also working out. And if it wasn't that important, they wouldn't be working out that much. Your workout is actually what creates the stimulus to change. And then your body's gonna use the nutrition to make that change. You need both, okay? But this is definitely not gonna give you the greatest workouts because you're gonna feel like shit, okay? Now, if you're eating, this is something that's a big disadvantage. Cravings. The more junk you eat, the more you're gonna crave it. It's been shown that sugar, it's more addictive than cocaine. Like they've shown the studies, the brain, how everything reacts. Like sugar, it's more addicting than cocaine. So that's why also when you try to cut it, you get those withdrawals. You get a headache, you feel dizzy, you get that nauseous feeling, maybe sometimes you throw up, it's because sugar is a drug. So the more you eat it, the more you're gonna crave it. So eventually you're gonna have to start thinking beyond flexible. Unless you can be flexible and get to the point where, okay, I'm gonna eat good foods, but if I want a slice of pizza and I can account for it on my calories, then I'll do it. Then that works. But not many people have the willpower to do that. Because what happens if you eat one slice of pizza? You want a second one, and a third one, and you want to do it more often. But if you're someone who has amazing self-control, then this could work. Just eat healthy, nutritious, nutrition-dense foods, and whenever you feel like cheating, you just account for that. Then that's the best way this one would work. Okay? Now, intermittent fasting, something very popular. Weren't you doing that, Sode? Are you still doing that? Mr. Whataburger got married. I don't know what he's doing now.
Flexible.
It happens to the best of us. When you get married, you're in a whole different zone. Anyway, intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting means that for a period of time you're gonna eat, and for a period of time you're not gonna eat anything. Nothing that spikes a metabolic response. So meaning during the time that you're fasting, meaning you're not eating, you can drink water, you can drink sparkling water, you can drink black coffee, just something with no sugar, no calories, nothing that will create a metabolic effect or something to digest. There's very little things you can consume actually. And then for a period of time, you're gonna eat, which is called your feeding window. So let's just call it fast and feed. So the most common or popular way that you're probably gonna find is this one. 12-hour fast, no actually not, a 16-hour fast and an 8-hour feeding window. So it means from your last meal, you'll go 16 hours before you eat again, and then you'll get all of your food in that 8-hour period, in that 8-hour window. Now, why does this work so well? Because this is very effective. And by the way, we said this. Everything works as long as you can stick to it and you're hitting the right calories. If you're in a calorie deficit, meaning consuming less calories that your body consuming or burning, which is both, right? But giving your body less calories than it needs to maintain. That could be done by eating less or burning more, or a combination of both. Eating less, working out more is gonna create that calorie deficit. But all of this will work as long as you're in a calorie deficit. Now, I've tried this myself. If you're in a calorie surplus, meaning you're eating more calories than your body needs, even if you fast 20 hours, which I've done, 20 hours and then just eat all your food in 4 hours, you're not gonna lose weight. So a lot of people think intermittent fasting is magic. It's very effective, but it ain't no magic. You still gotta hit your calories. Calories are gonna be superior to any of these methods. Okay, now if you think about this, intermittent fasting automatically puts you in a position where you can be on a calorie deficit because it's restricting the time of the day that you're eating. So it's gonna be harder to go beyond the calories your body needs so that it can store as fat if you're restricting, like, okay, I can only eat in 8 hours. You know, a lot of times what happens is when you're new to fasting, you're gonna be really hungry, so with your first meal you're gonna go crazy and just binge. But guess what? After that you're not gonna be able to eat because you're all like full and bloated and sluggish and you gave all that to your body at once. So it's gonna make you eat less on the next meals, making it easier to be in a calorie deficit. Now don't get me wrong, you can still be on a calorie surplus on fasting. I mean, it's not that hard to get a lot of calories from junk food. A lot of people with fasting too, they do it so that they can eat whatever they want, so they kind of mix this too. They limit, let's say for 16 hours they're not gonna eat anything, and then for 8 hours they eat whatever they want. It works as long as your calories are down, but it's not the most optimal way. What I've done with fasting is fast for 16 to 20 hours, then have all my meals in this time, but I've done both, bad meals and good meals. Good meals still gonna give you a better result. Not just fat loss, but it's gonna fuel better workouts, it's gonna make you feel better, and overall you're just gonna be healthier. But there's many benefits that have been found with fasting. Like it reduces your blood glucose. It reduces even the size of your stomach, something called extensibility. So your stomach's like a balloon. The more you feed it, the more you expand it, the bigger it gets. You start eating less, it's gonna compress, it's gonna contract. So because you're going for so long without any food, your stomach's empty, so it gets smaller. So in the long run, you're actually gonna be able to eat less and less and less food during that window without having that much of a hard time, because your stomach's actually easier. It's smaller, so it fills up easier. Did you have a question over there?
Yes.
What we got?
What about meat? I hear that eating red meat every day is not healthy. What do you recommend, to stick more with white meat for better weight loss result?
Okay, that's a great question. So meat versus, well, I guess like beef, right? Like red meat?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wrote it down here so that I don't forget, so that we can go over it. Let me just finish going over all of this, and then we can go into details about what actual meats are gonna be better, or what foods you actually want to eat. But anyway, so this one helps you reduce your stomach size. Also, there's been some studies showing that if you train during at the end of the fast, before you break that fast with the feeding window, so if you work out before you actually have your first meal, after you went on for that long time, it shows that your body will burn more fat. And there's been some studies that show that more around the midsection, which I doubt. That's what they said, but I doubt, because you can't really spot reduce. But it says that because the stomach is empty, it drives more blood flow there. We don't know if that is for sure. But hey, it doesn't hurt, right? If you burn more fat from your midsection, it doesn't hurt you, right? So it helps your stomach become smaller. It burns more fat if you work out before it. And when you eat after you work out, it's gonna produce a more anabolic response. Because since your body's depleted, chances are you're not gonna store everything as fat. It's gonna go more to muscle and glycogen stores. What else I like about fasting? Right now I'm actually doing this. And this is what I recommend. I don't usually recommend this, because for the most part, people fail diets when they're hungry. And for the last 14 years I've said, don't go hungry. So now you're like saying, Octavio, well, you've always said to not be hungry, to not go super hungry, because then that's when we mess up. And now you're saying that you're not gonna eat for 16 hours or 20 hours like you've done because you're crazy. Yeah, I'm crazy, but I can control myself. So this is only if you have amazing willpower and control, self-control. If you don't have self-control, I do not recommend this. I would recommend this challenge to you actually. Try it for a day so you know what real hunger is. Because sometimes you eat because you think you're hungry and you're not. But if you try going for a day without eating, you'll know what real hunger is. And now when you're tempted, you'll know like, oh no, I'm not hungry. I'm fine, right? But this one's is good for busy people. Like right now that we started the year, we're really busy. And for me to have 5 to 6 meals every 3 hours and prepare and do all of that, it's not the most effective because it takes time away. So if you're a really busy person, maybe during the day, then this is a good idea because you can get all of your food in the afternoon or in the evening or at night and not having to worry about meal prep or carrying your lunchbox or whatever. I've done both work. So I'm barely transitioning to doing fasting again just because it's a really busy time of the year for me. And it's easier for me to just eat everything I need in like, let's say 6 hours at the end of the day. Just gives you more time. But it requires a lot of self-control. So if you're a busy person, this can definitely work. You just need a lot of self-control. Because if you don't, even if you eat a little cookie, a little chip, it'll break your fast. And then you have to start all over. So when you eat the last foods or whatever gave you a metabolic response, something to digest, then that's when your fast starts. So even if you drink a little bit of a protein shake, it'll break your fast and then you're back to zero. You have to start over again. So you have to be very disciplined, and when it's the fasting section, you're not consuming any calories at all. Like you just have to suck it up, buttercup. And then during those 8 hours, then you can have all of your food. So you'll be eating pretty much all evening, or whatever you decide the time frame would be for fasting. Any questions on fasting, Saul?
No.
Let's see. Next one, we go to keto. So I put flu here so that I don't forget to mention that again. So keto is going to be, some doctors call this that you can get into ketosis by simply eating less than 50 grams of carbs a day. Excuse me. From the information I've seen in my experience, that's kind of like halfway information, because this is not necessarily ketogenic. Okay, this could just be, we could just call it a low carb diet, which there's like hundreds or thousands of them. And the thing is, when your body gets into ketosis, we talked about this earlier, it's gonna transfer from burning, using energy from carbs to using energy from fats. It's gonna create ketones and use energy from fats. But not always does it happen on low carb, because I would consider this more of a what happens over here. I don't even remember how to spell this word, but I'll just abbreviate it here. Your body has a system to survive for everything. So there's something called gluconeogenesis, which means if your body is deprived from carbs, you can convert proteins into glucose, into carbs. So for you to really get into this ketosis state and sustain it, what I've seen the most success with is not necessarily less than 50 grams of carbs a day, but a specific macro breakdown. So, and by the way, everybody has a different way to do this. Some people might be 70, some people might be 80, some people might be 65. But this is a general formula that I have seen that works very effective. So 75% of your calories are going to come from carbs. 20% of your calories are going to come from protein. And 5% are going to come from, oh, my bad, this is fats. The most of your food is going to be fats. So it's a high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet. Really what is going to be the most effective to get you into ketosis and be able to sustain that. Okay, so what happens when you do this is that because you have so much fat and you're getting into ketosis, you're using those ketones for energy, your protein is kind of low, your carbs are almost non-existent, then your body is forced to run off of fat and it's gonna burn more fat. So that's why this one has been so successful for fat loss, for people to get leaner, to lose weight, tone up. But again, you cannot forget that you're gonna be like, oh my God, like you've said this a million times already. If you're not on a calorie deficit, you won't lose fat. You're gonna use fat as energy, but you're not gonna lose weight. Never forget, all diets work as long as you can stick to them and they're on a calorie deficit. So if you eat more calories than you're burning, that your body needs, even on a ketogenic diet, you're not gonna lose weight. Did you have a question, Saul?
Yes. We have 2 for intermittent fasting and 1 for keto.
Okay, so let's go with whichever comes first.
Alright. If you fast, can you still work out?
If you fast, can you still work out? Yes, absolutely. And it is actually recommended for better results that you work out at the end of your fast. So let's say my last meal was at 8 p.m. Let's say my last meal is at 8 p.m. So for me to go again and eat, it's gonna be until between 12 and 2, depending on how long you're fasting. So what I would wanna do is work out before that. So if I'm gonna break my fast at 12, I'll work out at 11, which is at the end of my fast, so my body has to reach for fat for energy because it's depleted. It already used some of the sugar, some of the other stuff for all the functions it needs other than working out. And it's gonna have to reach for fat. Also, you will have your meal right after your workout. So So you want to work out right before you break the fast with the first meal, because when you're post-workout, you're more likely to use those nutrients for muscle repair instead of fat storage. Chances are you're not going to store a lot of fat from that first meal because you're completely depleted, plus you worked out. So if you're going to be fasting, absolutely, you still work out. And the best time to work out is right before the first meal. Now, if you've never done this and you're used to eating all day, then you want a smooth transition. Because if you just fast and you've never done this and you're used to having high sugars and high fats in your diet, and you go try to kill a workout super intense, you might get like dizzy or feel sick, feel nauseous. So I wouldn't go with the hardest workout right away. I would ease my way into it over the course of a week. Some people can transition right away, but it depends on what you've been doing. If you're used to eating a lot all the time, snacking all the time, then you need a smooth transition. If you just typically eat like once or twice a day, then you won't even feel the transition because you kind of are already fasting for a period of the day. Next question, Zone.
What kind of foods do you eat with intermittent fasting?
What kind of foods do you eat with intermittent fasting? Great question. Amateurs eat whatever they want. So they do this. If it meets your macros or flexible. Once you're serious about your health and about your fitness, then you're gonna eat like any other diet that you would do. So fasting tells you when to eat, not what to eat. Intermittent fasting is not a specific diet, it's just a protocol of like, don't eat for this many time, eat at this time window. But you can do there's people that do ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting, which works well killing sugar cravings. Some people do carb cycling. I've done both with intermittent fasting. Some people have done any other diet and just use intermittent fasting to help get those benefits. So it's really up to you what your goal is. Again, we can't generalize, but let's say if you want to lose weight, let's just give you an example. Like we can use one of the FTDP diets, one of the raw diets, where you have 5 meals a day, protein on every meal, and you have carbs early in the day, fats and fibers later in the day. That could work within intermittent fasting and do amazing results. That's how I got actually some of the best results with intermittent fasting, by having those time windows and then eating very clean, high nutrient foods. So instead of getting my carbs from Chips Ahoy or chips, I will get my carbs from fruits, from potatoes, and vegetables. I will get my fats from, let's say, something like avocado or egg yolks, and then the protein will all the animal proteins and protein shakes. So intermittent fasting doesn't specify, it's not a specific diet, it's just this time you eat, this time you don't eat. Okay? And really the biggest effects of fasting are gonna happen after the 16 hours. So between the 16 and 20 hour window is when you get the actual most benefits. Now, not everybody is gonna be able to go ahead and do that, because to get all your food in just 4 hours, some people are just gonna be feeling really sick or not gonna be able to adapt. Especially women, it's not recommended for you to fast that long, because you have different hormones than us do, since you girls are the ones that have babies and have all the reproduction. Actually, for females, what I've seen is more recommended to fast between 12 and 14, or actually between 12 and 16, not going beyond the 16. Especially if you're pregnant, I wouldn't recommend even messing with it, by the way. Well, if you're pregnant, I don't recommend anything. You need to talk to your doctor. This is just what we've seen works the best. Did we have something else? You said you had a question on keto, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Does the keto diet harmfully limit micronutrient intake?
That's a great question. That's one of the biggest debates on keto. And again, keto fan, like people that make keto their religion, they're gonna hate this. And again, I'm not pro keto or against keto. I'm just pro what's gonna work for you. And I believe in using this as tools. Okay, micronutrients. And this is part of why you get this this keto flow. So because you're only eating, or not only eating, but mainly eating fats, and and a moderate protein and a very low carb, you are leaving some stuff out. You get some, you lose some with any diet. Because anytime you restrict something, well, you're cutting something out that your body might benefit from. So for example, if you're on a keto diet and mainly what you're getting is fats, it is recommended to supplement with electrolytes and minerals, like for example higher sodium, higher potassium, higher magnesium, calcium, just because you're probably not going to be getting as much as you need. Even vitamins, because you're not going to get as much as you need. Now, again, your body adapts to everything. So that's the beauty of our body. So if you're doing keto for a while, look, you're gonna get to a point where you feel just fine, you feel perfect. You might even feel better than doing anything else. But it's just getting that period of time where letting your body adjust to it. But you do lose some micronutrients. And mentioning again the keto flu, increasing micronutrients and water is something that's recommended once you transition into a keto diet. It's not ideal to jump in like hardcore. Like let's say you eat 200 carbs a day. For you to go to a ketogenic diet tomorrow, your body's gonna be in shock. So I would personally let me cut to 150 carbs a day first, let my body adjust. Let's cut to 100 carbs a day, let the body adjust. While you're doing this, you're increasing the fats. And until you get to that point where your calories are mainly coming from fats. And this percentages, what they mean is this. Let me just do it over here. So we said that there's 9 calories per gram of fat, 4 calories per gram of protein, and 4 calories per gram of carb. And we're just using this number just as something easy to follow. But this is not necessarily where you need to be. Everybody's metabolism is different. But let's just say that for you, the ideal number was to be at 2,000 calories. Or let's say you maintain at 2,000. So let's say for you to be on a calorie deficit, let's say you're gonna go to 1,600. Okay, so let's forget this. Let's say you're gonna eat 1,600 calories a day. Okay? 75% of this 1,600 need to come from fat. So let's just do quick math here. 1,600 calories equals 100% of the calories. So 75% would be what? So Saul, can you help me with your calculator? 75 times 1,600 divided by 100.
1,200.
So 1,200 calories of your daily food would be fat. And that leaves us with what? 400 calories left? That means 400 calories left to split between protein and carbs. Let's do those numbers. Okay, so 400 calories, and we need to get a 20%. Oh no, that's 100% of what we have left. And we need, no, what did I do?
300.
No, it's 20% of the 1,600. So 20 times 1,600 divided by 100.
320.
So 320 calories are gonna be from protein. And we have left 5%. So let's multiply 5 times 1,600 divided by 100. 80?
80, yeah.
So only 80 calories from carbs. If you needed to be at 1,600 calories, this is your keto diet. And then you just fill in the blank with the foods you want. So what do you want to get your carbs from? Ideally, if you're on keto diet, you don't want to spike any insulin, so you want to have complex carbs. Okay, so let's just call it complex carbs. 320 calories of protein. If we said that each gram has 4 calories, that means how many grams? 320 divided by 4? 80. So you gotta have 80 grams of protein a day. Let's do the carbs. 80 calories divided by, 80, yeah, divided by 4.
20.
So you're gonna have 20 grams of carbs. See, we're a little lower than. And how many grams of fat? 1200 divided by 9. Huh?
133.
So you're mainly eating fat. So where are you gonna get this fat from? Nuts, avocado, butter, bacon, fatty steaks would account for some fat and some protein. But really, here you can just fill in the blank. Again, the best diet is the one you can sustain, right? At least initially. So what type of fats can you sustain eating? What type of proteins can you sustain eating? Do you like to eat salmon instead of steak? Well, then have salmon, which is a fatty protein, right? So that would be as far as keto. What can you eat? It's broken down there. Well, do we have another question?
No.
Okay, so let's see. Let's move to carb cycling. Which is very, very, very effective too. This is probably what I've gotten the leanest with, personally. So carb cycling, what it is, it's very, well, it's not very similar, but it's kind of keto for a few days and then having a carb up day, okay? And it's not, I say kinda because we're not gonna have so much fat, we're gonna have more protein. So this is what it would look like. For example, 3 days of low carb, and again, this can vary, followed by a carb up day. And then you repeat the cycle, or maybe you go here to 2 days and 1, or 4 and 1, depending on your training activity and what you're doing. What we do with our rosters, if they're in a challenge, we just give them the protocol. Okay, follow this, because we know exactly what training they're doing, what supplements they're taking, what requirements they have. But if you're not our client, then these are just like basic guidelines, and then you need to adjust based on your needs. So you go 3 days of low carb and 1 carb up day. So let me just make some room here. So a few important things on the low carb day is you're gonna have, on this one, as opposed to the keto diet, you're gonna have a high protein intake. So on this one, you're gonna have protein on every meal, to be exact. So if you're gonna have 5 meals a day, every meal needs to have a protein. On the ketogenic diet, you could have protein on every meal, but you could not as well, because you don't have that much to play with. But most people have protein source on every one. And you're gonna have low to as close to 0 carb as you can get. And you're gonna throw in some fats. Maybe fibers. So like vegetables. Fats and fibers. Well, that's not, there you go. On these days, your body is gonna lose a lot of water, similar to what we talked about the keto flu. Why? Because we're depleting the glycogen. And especially if you're doing intense workouts, more of that glycogen is gonna be depleted faster. Glycogen, again, remember, carbs and water, main source of energy for the muscle. Why do we want to deplete the glycogen? So that our body has no choice but to burn stored fat, stored stubborn fat, okay? Because of this, it's important, just like we mentioned here, to have more water, to increase more water and salt. So you can kind of compensate and protect your body, okay? Now, we don't want to just keep going and depleting more and more, trying to deplete more glycogen, because once you deplete it, then you're depleting it. And what your body, we talked about, is going to do is called gluconeogenesis. It's the process where your body, if it's out of these sources of energy and it has a lot of protein that more than it probably needs, it's going to convert some of that protein into glucose. So if you just keep going with this, you're fooling yourself thinking that you don't have any glucose in your body. So what we want to do is just reduce the glycogen enough for 3 days that we can tap into fat storage and create an anabolic spike over here on the carb up day. So the 4th day would be here, instead of a high protein, it'll be a high carb day. The protein can stay the same. Excuse me. Some people like to keep it the same. Some people like to lower it a little bit so that you have more room to go with carbs. So I'll just put here protein, same or lower a little bit. And you're gonna do what you did with the carbs with the fats. So low to 0 fat. I mean, it's gonna be impossible to go 0 fat or 0 carb. There's hidden carbs and fats on a lot of foods, but you're trying to really reduce the fats as you increase the carbs, and you keep the proteins the same, or you cut back on the proteins a little bit. Okay, again, don't forget, you need a deficit for this to work. But what's gonna happen here is, since you depleted your glycogen, your carb storage, and you're tapping into fats for energy, but what's gonna happen here is when you go high carb, your body's not necessarily gonna store all of it as fat. It's gonna replenish the glycogen, especially if you've been training hard and lifting, and it's gonna feed up all those muscles. And it's also gonna kind of trick your body to say, hey, I'm not depleting you, don't slow down my metabolism. If you just constantly deplete your body and deplete it over and over and more, and you don't give your body refeeds or breaks, what it does is it's actually gonna slow down your metabolism. Okay, so if you burn 2,000 calories a day and you start cutting back on carbs or cutting back on fats or on whatever, and you do this week after week after week, and you're burning more by training, guess what? Your body's not stupid. We are the stupids. We think that your body's gonna stay there forever. Your body's gonna slow down its metabolism and become more efficient. So he's gonna, if I'm doing this, my metabolism is gonna say, hey, this dumbass Octavio is feeding me less, so I'm gonna find a way to do more with less, and I'm gonna store more, and I'm gonna burn less, and let me get rid of some of this muscle, because it's taking so much energy, because muscle is what consumes the most calories. So guess what? Now instead of burning 2,000 to live off of, this is gonna change. And maybe now I'm more inefficient. And if I keep doing it, then I am more inefficient. All up to the point where you're almost starving yourself. You're not eating enough and your body is not losing because it's trying to protect you. So something we're not gonna cover here, but something very important for you to look at eventually is called reverse dieting. So how you retrain your metabolism to actually be able to work with more calories. Because if you get to this point and then all of a sudden you break your diet and you get off the diet and you just go pig out and have whatever, your body is not this efficient anymore. So you're gonna store way more and you're gonna get fat. And that's why you rebound. Every time you finish a diet, you're pretty much teaching your body to be living off of less. Then you bounce off because you left that diet and build up those calories a lot again. So now your body's like, whoa, I can handle all this. Let me go store it as fat. And that's why a lot of people get fatter after a diet. Very common, very, very common. You lose 20 pounds, you gain 25. You lose 30 pounds, you put on 40. And you've seen this. I've seen it. I've been part of that statistic. So the more you diet, the smarter you have to be with increasing calories, because if at any period of time you just increase them again, or you stop working out, then it's very easy for you to bounce up and put on those calories. I mean, those pounds back up. Any other questions we have so far?
No.
Okay, so I remember we had the question of, let's just change the marker to make it a little bit more fun. So somebody was asking about protein sources. And they were asking about beef versus white meat. Like, did they say chicken or fish or?
White meat in general.
Okay, well, white meat anyway. Chicken or turkey or whatever. So, for you to get your macros, which is pretty much how many grams of protein are you trying to get? Let's say you need 150 grams a day, based on what you're doing, right? You figured out your calories. Let's say you weigh 150 and you're gonna go for a gram per pound, which is a high protein intake. You can get away with less, but let's just say you're gonna go with that. Then those 150 grams, you can meet that requirement as far as the macro and as far as the protein, just by eating either. Okay? But remember what we said? What was the order? Number one, you need to follow something you can sustain, that you can comply, right? After that, we said it was calories. So far, so good. What did we say was next? You remember something?
Yes.
What is it?
Micronutrients.
Oh, not there. And then the macronutrients. So this would go into macronutrients. You can get your protein from wherever you want. From a protein shake, from white meat, from fish, from beans, for whatever reason. I mean, whatever source you want. But which one's gonna be more dense in micronutrients? That's what you wanna ask yourself. Okay, even higher than that, which one can you comply? Now, if you're not a professional athlete or you're not gonna compete in CrossFit or bodybuilding or a bikini figure or something like that, then really, what can you comply with? Like, if you're someone that hates meat, like beef, then it might not be the best idea to try to force yourself to eat meat. If you're someone who hates chicken, then it might not be the best idea to force yourself to eat chicken, right? You can get your protein and your calories from somewhere else. But if we just compare this two, then this one is gonna be way higher in micronutrients. This one's gonna be way higher in iron, a better spectrum of amino acids. It's gonna have better vitamin Bs. It's gonna even have creatine for the muscles. So if you're trying to get as peaky as you can and you're trying to really optimize your performance, your strength, your muscle, then this is gonna be this. But again, if you're just trying to improve the way you look, the way you feel, the weight on the scale, maybe you're just a mom or a dad and you don't want to get to like the Olympics or professional, then you can just get away with eating whatever you can sustain. The first thing we understand is I want you to stick with something. Okay, I don't want you to follow the perfect diet, lose 20 pounds, and then next month you're 30 pounds heavier. That's not what we want. We want you to be able to sustain it. Now, as you build more habits and more willpower, and you actually start making it part of your lifestyle, then you can start picking. Now, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. You've heard that, right? So the best thing is to balance them, not just get your protein from chicken, because there's bad things about chicken too. Someone was concerned about beef, right? That is bad. Well, there's opposite opinions and studies. There's studies that found, or people that say that it's horrible, and there's all on the other end. There's people that and studies have shown that this is the best source of protein by far. So where do you want to be? I suggest we use everything to our advantage. So I'm not against any specific food. I don't think any of them are the devil or they're evil. So I suggest eating both. This has way more micronutrients, and most people think that this is great, but also, you know, you eat a lot of chicken, guess what they feed the chicken? They feed them soy, and then they feed them hormones, right? I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, hormones and antibiotics and all that stuff. And the whole point is, right now, let's get you to be better than yesterday. Let's get you to be cleaner. Let's get you something you can sustain, and let's get you on a calorie deficit just to get started. Once you're at your ideal weight and you have this discipline, you have these habits, then you can start getting a little bit more picky. Now, we talked about this, right? We talked about, well, some beef is grain-fed, some is grass-fed. I mean, that's getting a little bit more picky, of course. Any time you can go for organic, for grass-fed, grass-finished, or free range, like for example, for the chicken or for the eggs. For the fish, it will be wild caught instead of farm raised, because there's gonna be less contaminants in them. So that's just getting it to a whole nother level, which it still works. Like for example, now I look for that. If you're in a position where you can go for organic, then go for organic. If you can go for grass-fed, go for grass-fed. Go for the best, because you're fueling your body. Again, that's why we said the flexible dieting is the cheapest, because usually you're gonna go for crap. But if you're really thinking long term and you're gonna stop insulting your body, insulting yourself and your future and your kids and your family, and you don't want to just add years to your life, but you want to add life to your years, then these things start to count a little more. Hope that answered your question. What else we got, Solo? Is that it?
Oh no, I missed one.
Hit me, baby.
Alright, so Brenda said, I have done intermittent fasting for 15 to 16 hours, then stopped eating at about 7 p.m. And then eating again at 10 or 11 a.m. and low carbs around 50 to 60 grams per day, and have lost a pound or 2 per day. I was eating 2 eggs.
Okay, that's a lot of information. Let me write it down. So she did fasting for how long?
16 hours, 15 to 16.
Okay, so let's just call it 15-hour fast. Okay, and then?
And then she was eating low carbs around 50 to 60 grams per day.
50 to 60 grams of carbs per day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Per day, okay.
And she wants to know if that's a good amount of carbs.
Okay, that's a good question. It depends. There's not a yes or no answer. It depends on what you're doing. Well, we covered everything else before. I don't know if she or what's her name?
Brenda.
I don't know if Brenda joined late, but we kind of covered that. If you have this low carbs, then your protein is gonna have to be really high, or your fats have to be really high. Let's just figure it out. If Brenda's still here, if you can tell me how many calories you were eating per day, that will help me a lot, or how much you weigh. Because we can figure out, for example, let's say she's eating 55, which is right in the middle, right? Let's say she's eating 55. What's 55 times 4? Which is 4 calories a day. 220?
Yes, sir.
So imagine this. You're only getting 220 calories from carbs. So where are you getting all the rest of your calories? It's gonna have to have a protein intake and fat intake. So either you're gonna have to be very high on protein or fat. This will only work if you're in a calorie deficit and the protein is high. Because, well, no, actually, this could actually become ketogenic too. Well, it depends on how much she weighs. Because if she's that low carb and she boosts up the fat a lot and have a moderate protein, then this could be a ketogenic diet. A ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting has shown to be very successful. One of the benefits that I see with, like, if you really have a hard time sticking with something, or you're always hungry when you're on a diet, usually with traditional diets, you're hungry all the time. Like, you eat a meal and then like 2-3 hours later, you're already hungry. That, I mean, not for everybody, but for a good amount of people, when they get into ketosis, they don't feel as hungry. They don't feel those cravings. Now, if you combine that with intermittent fasting and you're already teaching your body to stay hungry and you're only gonna eat at those times, then this becomes very powerful, for example, for sugar cravings. Now, of course, nothing is magic and nothing works right away. Well, once you adapt to it, it's easier to reduce or eliminate sugar cravings. However, this is not the end all be all. There's people that just genetically, they come from a genetic place where they are used to eating a lot of carbs, they have a lot of carbs. So maybe going into keto is not going to be the best idea for them. Now there is people on the other hand who are carb intolerant. I mean, they eat some carbs and they just get super inflamed. Their joints hurt. They can't deal with it. Then this is a brilliant idea for someone like that. So again, it's hard to say just a specific answer without knowing all the information. Just because to have the right answer, you need to have a lot of variables in place. But again, talking in general terms, for weight loss / fat loss, as long as you have those 4 steps, go with whichever you like the best. Or you can rotate, you can alternate some of them. The problem with keto is if you have some sugar, some carbs, you indulge and you couldn't control yourself, then you're out of ketosis. And then you have to start all over again. What's the next question, Saul?
Brenda answered.
Oh, okay, great.
So she was eating 2 eggs, ham, and 2 low-carb tortillas. And she's saying that when eating that, she wasn't hungry until 6 or 7 p.m.
Hold on, let me write it down. 2 eggs, and what else?
Ham, and 2 tortillas.
Okay, 2 eggs. So this is about 120 calories. 2 tortillas, and this is, let me see, hold on. This is about 120 calories. This is about 12 grams of protein, and it's about 10 grams of fat. 10 to 12. Ham, I don't know how much ham, if she can tell me that, but 2 tortillas, that's gonna be about...
She said they were low carb, so like about 5 carbs per tortilla.
Okay, because usually a tortilla is about 10 grams. Okay, we know she's on low carb. And this was her first meal?
Yeah, and then after that, she wouldn't get hungry until about 6 or 7 p.m.
Okay.
And that's when she usually have like grass-fed chicken and salad, or a protein shake.
Grass-fed chicken, salad, or a protein shake, or both?
Or protein shake.
Or protein shake.
And so she's doing this because she gets bloated with carbs.
This is 6 p.m., right?
Yes, sir.
And then what's next? That's it? That's all you're eating a day?
Yeah.
Okay, then this is a special case, because if this is really all you're eating in one day, then you're like wrecking your metabolism, because it's extremely low calorie. Like if you're drinking a protein shake, I mean, it's probably gonna be like around, let's just go crazy and let's say it's gonna be 150 calories. I mean, a grass-fed chicken salad, how many calories can you have in that? I mean, let's just say, this is like being like very generous with those numbers, okay? So that's like 450, 570. I mean, you're not even getting like 800 calories a day. So the problem I see with this is it's very low calorie. It's very low on everything. So what's happening is your body is gonna become less and less and less efficient at burning calories. It's actually gonna do the opposite to survive. It's gonna become efficient at running with very low calories. And if you ever increase the calories, if you go off the diet or whatever, it's gonna be very likely gonna bounce up. Also, with this, your workouts are being very limited because you can't really perform. And what you wanna do with your diet, they say that the diet is what controls the number on the scale, right? But if you really wanna control how your body looks, then it has a lot to do with the workouts, and the diet is gonna feed the workouts. So if you're not training hard, you're missing out. And I doubt you can train really hard with about 800 calories a day. So the first thing I would recommend for you is, if I am the person in this situation, what I would do is I would try to reverse diet out of this. Meaning I would try to slowly build my metabolism back up. So let's just throw a number out there. If I'm at 800 calories a day, then I'm not gonna try to go crazy. I might just go to 900 and let my body adapt and stay there, let's say for a week, okay? And keep training, and then build it up to 1,000. Because if you do this too fast, if you jump on something else that's way higher calorie too fast, you're gonna put on the weight. And the word says it itself, right? You're trying to reverse it. You already got to the spot where you're very, very low carb. Now, I might be getting ahead, and maybe she's just starting to do this, or maybe she's doing this, but maybe it's inconsistent. Maybe she has cheat meals here and there, and those calories go way up, so then she's not in that tough situation. But if someone's been doing this regularly, then that metabolism is gonna be very, very, very slow. So my focus will be slowly adding calories and train to put on muscle so that you can actually build up that metabolism. The more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism. A metabolism at 800 is very slow. So increase calories little by little and increase muscle. That doesn't mean you're gonna get bulky. Now, you will never get bulky with 800 calories a day, regardless of what you did. Hope that helped. What we got, Sol? Anything else?
Susana, she's just asking if she weighs 135 pounds, what should be the amount of protein she should eat in grams?
135 pounds?
Yes, since you did like the 2,000 calories, like she wants to know how much.
Okay, but the 2,000 calories is just a number I threw out there to make it easy to visualize and subtract and divide and all that, okay? It doesn't mean that that's where you need to be at. But how much? Okay, this is the body weight. So the question is grams of protein. Again, this depends on what training you're doing. If you're training hard, like something like what we do at Elite or Raw, or maybe I don't know, maybe you're doing CrossFit, or I don't know. If you're doing something where you're really taxing the muscles and taxing the body, then you want to go somewhere around this.
She trains at Elite, Susan.
She trains at Elite?
Yes.
Okay, so, oh, I already wrote grams there. Then I would do 135 grams of protein, just because that's 1 gram per pound of body weight. Okay. Now, some people can get away with less. Some people even recommend that a gram of protein per pound of lean mass, not of your total body weight. But this is somewhere easy to start. It's just easier to visualize. You don't need to know all the math and the formulas and how to do that. So if you are at 135, and how many times a day do you eat?
She didn't say.
Well, let's say she's gonna follow something very, very similar. I mean, very, very simple, very common. And let's say that she's gonna have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack here, and a snack here, which is something very common, very popular, and actually works as long as you're in calorie deficit. Then what we do is we divide 135 by 5.
Oh, she eats 5 times a day.
Okay, so let's divide 135 by 5. What is that total?
27.
So, more or less, you're gonna have 27 grams on every meal. So, since you come to Elite, I know this is something popular for you, so it's gonna be a shake, for example, and that's more or less what's on a scoop of a protein shake. It's about 25. So if you have 25 here and 25 here, we have 4 extra grams to add, right? So let's say 29, 27, 27. And that's your 135 grams a day. Now this could come, let's say, from eggs, or let's say from Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, for example, on your breakfast. This too could be a protein shake, just if you're busy or at work and you don't have time to sit down and cook a meal or have 5 solid meals. Protein shake's better than skipping a meal or going through a drive-through. A lunch, let's say you have here a lean piece of steak. Let's say you have a fillet here, or a little piece of sirloin, top sirloin. And then let's say here you have some type of fish. And that will be your protein intake for the day. Doing it very simple. And actually, it doesn't have to be complicated. You know, I keep pounding that simple, simple. Yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated. For so long, I tried to read all the science and articles and understand all these fancy words and try everything. And I understand that, man, it's so simple. We humans just love to make shit complicated. It's so easy. I hope that helped you, Susana. And I hope that this has been helpful. If you have any more questions or anything else that my team and I can do for you, please let us know. We are here to help. We appreciate you for staying with us, for watching. Thank you for being part of the Raw family. If this helped you, please tag a friend, share. Our goal is to reach 1 million people by 2023, be a positive impact in their life, help them live their best life. So if you can share, if I can help you achieve your goals and you can help mine of reaching 1 million people, I appreciate that. Share, tag your friends, comment, show some love. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Rostar.